All right, we're going to talk about how to divide rational numbers. All right, fractions, common denominator, or KFC. I know common denominator seems kind of strange. Um, so I may not even show you that one because KFC is so common. If you really want to see something different besides KFC, you can come talk to me. So there is a way to do this with common denominator, but we're not going to do it right now. All right. So here's what's going to happen. I want you to look at this and say, hey, KFC, here's why I like and don't like KFC. I don't like KFC. And some of you who are like, what in the world is KFC? All right. KFC is a little trick that people use, and it's called keep, flip, change. All right. And that's the rule. Keep, flip, change. It's also called multiplying by the reciprocal. Now, here's why I don't like it. I don't like it because it's too cute that students just don't know when to use it. They just use it randomly, and they'll just sit there and say, I'll say, how do you add fractions? And they'll say, KFC? No. How do you subtract fractions? KFC? No. How do you multiply fractions? KFC? No. And finally be like, how do you divide fractions? KFC? Right. I knew it. I remember. So sometimes it's not helpful. If you can't remember when it's used, it's not helpful. I did have a group of students one time, and I said, listen, keep, flip, change. It's only division. Only division. That's the only time you ever use it. KFC, only division. And some kids started laughing in class. And I was like, what are you laughing at? And he said, Mr. Hyde, Kentucky Fried Chicken, only drumsticks. And he started laughing. I started laughing. It was a great time. You should have been there. All right. But KFC means keep, flip, change, only division. All right. If you know KFC's division, then you're great. I had one student tell me, I'm like, how do you remember it? And they go, Mr. Hyde, KFC is only division because when you go to KFC, they don't give you a whole chicken. They divide the chicken up into different pieces for you to eat. So I know that KFC is division because they divide the chicken up into legs and wings and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, bit creepy, but if it works for you, great. So all I care about is that you know how to divide fractions, and KFC is a nice way to do it. So I don't care if you use it. So let's show you how to use it. So KFC would be keep it, flip it, change it. Keep the fraction, flip the fraction, change division to multiplication. All right? And the reason that's okay is because that's what multiplication is. Multiplication is going to be dividing by the reciprocal. All right? It works for all numbers, so you don't have to worry about it. The nice part now is tops times the bottom, 18 over 20. I should put it there, 18 over 20. All right? Then I say what goes in 18 and 20? 2. And I get 9 over 10, and there's my answer. All right? So it's very simple. It's probably the one that, besides multiplication, is very easy as long as you know what it is. Now this one, look at that ugly beast. Man, it looks ugly. It is 10 times easier than it looks. It just looks horrible. Remember what fraction means. Fraction means division. So it's just 7 over 4 divided by 4 over negative 8. That simple. 7 over 4 times, flip it, negative 8 over 4. 7 times negative 8, negative 56. 4 times 4 is 16. So I just reduced negative 56 over 16. I know 8 goes into both of these. If you pick 2, it's fine. So negative 7 over 2. I can leave it like that, or I can go change it to a mixed number. All right? So I'm just going to give a quick little up there. All right? Remember, 7 goes on the inside, 2 on the outside. So what about your negative? You don't need the negative. Just put it there because you know it stays. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6 with 1 left over. All right? So my answer is going to be 3 and 1/2. All right? So my answer is going to be negative 3 and 1/2. But this is okay as an answer sometimes too. All right, so I'll take either one of those answers. This is an improper fraction. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just not proper. All right, this is a proper fraction. Right, so a proper fraction is going to be something like 3 over 4. Negative 7 over 2 is improper. I don't know what that means. It's just different. it's okay for an answer, but you just need to know that these two things are the same thing. All right. Next, decimals. Now these are ugly. So the way to do this, and I'm sorry, this is just ugly. So one way to do this is, let's just scratch that one out, and we'll just do this one twice. One way is to know that 8.1 divided by 3.52, just like we do fractions, right? 8.1 goes on the inside, 3.52 goes on the outside. Now I can't have a decimal out here. So what happens is I have to move this once, twice, which means this moves once, twice, and then I put a 0 here for that space. So that's what's going to happen there. And then what happens is I get that decimal point right there, and I can just keep adding zeros if I want to. All right, so this is where it gets ugly, and you just got to sit there and say, okay, how many times does this go into it, whatever. Now, here's another way to do it. Here's another way that you can look at it. If I really want to find the answer, I can start with 8.1 over, I'm sorry, I'm stopping there because, again, we just did that in a previous video. So if you don't know how to do that, look at the previous video. All right, 8.1 over 3.52. So one way we can do this is just leave it as a fraction. All right, fraction means division, so let's just leave it. The problem is I never want decimals in a fraction. All right, it's just I don't want it. It's not proper. All right, it's nothing wrong with it. I just don't want it. So wouldn't it be nice if I just want to get rid of this? I just want that gone. Now what happens is these two decimals are connected. So if I move this twice, I have to move this one twice. So I move this twice, I get 352. The top, I just get 810. All right? So what I can do now is I could go back to normal division, or I can just reduce. I can just sit there and say, okay, what goes into 810, 352? 2. So divide that by 2, divide that by 2, and I can get 810, I'm using a calculator, is 405, and 352 divided by 2 is going to be 176. All right? I know that 5 doesn't go into any one of these, right? And you say 3 doesn't, and you say, how do you know 3 doesn't? There's a rule with 3. If you can add up all the numbers, and 3 goes into that number, then 3 goes into that number. And you're like, what? 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. 3 goes into 9, therefore 3 goes into this number. And I can say, okay, 405 divided by 3. Oh, it does go in there evenly. But 176, 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 1 is 14. 3 doesn't go into 14, so this 3 doesn't go into that number. All right? Now we can keep going, but honestly, when it comes down to it, you're not usually going to get a lot of answers like this. This is just a once-in-a-while thing. All right? So what happens is it's going to be something like let's just for now leave that as our answer because we try to reduce it, couldn't, and that's where we stop. All right? But there's a process of how to get it set up every single time. You can do it as a long division, or you can start with a fraction and then reduce the fraction. It depends. Both of them are going to be ugly. This is just one of those ugly things in math we really can't get around. But again, if you're like, Mr. Hyde, I don't get anything you just said, rewind it again. All right, rewind it and then come, see if it helps, and then talk to me again if you need it. All right? All right, good luck.